Now, there will be some stuff in the test about how your car actually works, and it will seem a bit arcane, to be honest. For example, what sort of fluid should you use to top up your battery? As if anybody ever does. The answer, by the way, is the urine of a ginger-headed child. And the fact is that cars are so reliable nowadays that you will probably go through your entire driving career without ever having to lift the bonnet. Even so, you will need to know, for example, how to check the oil, what the catalytic converter does, what is the legal minimum tyre tread depth. Learn them. There are also things you'll do to your car that may affect the way it handles and how much fuel it uses. For example, towing a trailer, towing a caravan, fitting a roof rack. And you can use your common sense here. If it adds weight or increases wind resistance, you will use more fuel and never overload the vehicle. Finally, as a driver, I'm afraid you have responsibilities. If you have children in the car, make sure they have an iPad or a smartphone, because I Spy is, and always was, a terrible game. And remember, if you have minors in the car, it's your responsibility to make sure they wear their seatbelt. It's not theirs, and it's not their parents'. It's yours. Right, in this section we're going to have to address something really quite boring. But you are, of course, already familiar with being bored because you are studying for your driving theory test, which is boring. Now, though, we're going to look at the driving practical test, more specifically at the reasons why people fail it, so that you don't. Now, before you can drive, you need to pass your theory and your practical tests in that order. And if you don't do that, as I've said many times before, you won't be able to drive. And if you can't drive, you will be lonely and you will have no friends. Your friends will drive off over the horizon and you will be left behind in every sense, socially, politically, sexually, intellectually. You're done for. The depressing news is that over 50% of people who take the practical driving test fail. However, most of them fail for one or two very simple reasons. And if you can identify those and address them and deal with them, you will pass. And then your life will be improved immeasurably. Now, I'm not actually going to teach you how to drive because I'm afraid I'm not qualified to do that. I don't have a clipboard, I don't have the right sort of trousers. But what I can do is show you the reasons why a lot of people fail so you can avoid their mistakes. And we're going to do this using the most modern, interactive, artificial intelligence, enhanced reality methods known to the digital world, i.e. some toy cars and a cardboard diorama. Welcome to the training plan section of the app. Every time you come here, you will be offered a bespoke training session based on multi-guess questions and hazard perception videos. And it's very clever. The app knows which bits you've nailed and which bits you're not so strong on. So every time you come here, you are assured of learning something new. It's science, not tested on animals. Welcome to the training. This section is exactly what it says. Your chance to apply everything you've learned using this highly effective and reasonably priced app. You can choose the multi-choice questions, 50 will be selected at random from all the categories, or the hazard perception test. And you will be doing these under timed conditions, just like the real thing. Right, in this section we're going to have to address something really quite boring. But you are of course already familiar with being bored because you are studying for your driving theory test, which is boring. Now though, we're going to look at the driving practical test, more specifically at the reasons why people fail it, so that you don't. Now before you can drive, you need to pass your theory and your practical tests in that order. And if you don't do that, as I've said many times before, you won't be able to drive. And if you can't drive, you will be lonely and you will have no friends. Your friends will drive off over the horizon and you will be left behind in every sense, socially, politically, sexually, intellectually. You're done for. The depressing news is that over 50% of people who take the practical driving test fail. However, most of them fail for one or two very simple reasons. And if you can identify those and address them and deal with them, you will pass. And then your life will be improved immeasurably. Now, I'm not actually going to teach you how to drive because I'm afraid I'm not qualified to do that. I don't have a clipboard, I don't have the right sort of trousers. But what I can do is show you the reasons why a lot of people fail so you can avoid their mistakes. And we're going to do this using the most modern, interactive, artificial intelligence, enhanced reality methods known to the digital world, i.e. some toy cars and a cardboard diorama. The hazard perception test accounts for 50% of your overall mark, so it's important that you're good at this. What is it? Well, it's a series of videos played on a computer screen, each taken from the point of view of the driver. And in each one, there will be a series of hazards. It's your job to demonstrate that you've seen them by clicking your mouse. Now, this is quite tricky. When you're out on the road, everything is a potential hazard, especially if you can't drive yet. So here's what the examiners want to see. All the clips in the test have at least one developing hazard. One in the real test will have two, although in the app we've only put one in each so you don't go mad. Tap anywhere on the screen when you see a developing hazard. A developing hazard is simply one that causes you to take action, such as slowing down or even coming to a complete stop. The examiners want to be assured that you've seen the hazard in time. They just want to know that out in the real world, you will have time to take action, rather than running over a dog. There are plenty of other hazards, but if they don't make you have to do something, they're not counted as a developing hazard. Let's call them potential hazards to make the difference clear. You won't lose points for clicking on these, but you won't gain points either. The red flag at the bottom of the screen shows your click has been recorded. Here's how the scoring works. I'm going to take you through it very slowly and patronisingly. Here's a car highlighted in yellow. That's something to be aware of, and you can click on it in case it becomes a developing hazard. But it doesn't, because you didn't have to do anything, i.e. brake or accelerate or change direction. So you won't gain points for noticing them. Here's another one, ditto. Now look at this car. That's a developing hazard. You can see that you will have to take action here. The earlier you notice and click, the higher your score. So if you click now, you'll score 5 maximum points. That's pretty hard to do, as you really do need to be clicking immediately the potential problem appears. Click here and you'll get 4 points, and so on, down to 1 point where it's getting almost too late for you to have noticed at all. There are 14 clips in the real test, and we've got loads for you to practice on. I've been practicing and I've come up with a few tips. The first is, there's no special skill or knowledge required to do this. It is just a matter of paying attention, and you can do that. You're probably going to practice this on the tiny little screen of your smartphone. So when you get to the test centre and you do it on the full-size grown-up computer, you'll find it a lot easier. One final thing. Some of you are probably thinking, I'll just click the mouse continuously, then I'm bound to get it right. Well, it's bad luck, I'm afraid. The DVSA might be a bit square, but they're not daft. Their computer algorithm is designed to spot vigorous over-clicking, and if you do that, you will fail. Now let's look for the usual clues. Nobody on or approaching that crossing. Nothing coming out of that junction. Gets a bit narrow there with the parked cars, but there's space. Wait a minute, this car is parking, reversing. You're going to have to stop. Wait for that to happen. That was quite an easy one. That's not a proper parking space, though, it has to be said. Nil point. That car has stopped. That's okay. There's a tractor coming the other way, but that's not really a hazard in itself. It's not going to swerve past someone at that junction. Where's the clue? Parked cars on both sides. Car coming up to the junction. No, he stopped. No, he's stuck his nose out. That means you're going to have to slow down. Look, because the motorcyclist has to pull out. So does the other car. A lot of red herrings in that one. The car sticking its nose out was your big clue. Be ready. I don't actually know how many road signs there are. There could be 10 or more. You could be tested on any one of them, which means you have to know all of them. That sounds like a big ask. Actually, it's not that bad. Most road signs are pretty obvious. They wouldn't be very useful if they weren't. Often they will include words. Give way is quite difficult to get wrong. And if they don't include words, they will include numbers or pictures. Here are a few general rules to help you work out signs. Circular signs give orders that must be obeyed for you to stay within the law. Circular signs with red borders tell you things that you mustn't do. For example, make a U-turn. Blue signs give more positive instructions, such as turn left. Triangular signs give warnings, such as tight bends ahead, so be ready to slow down, or risk of falling rocks, not that you can actually do much about that. They almost always have a red border. Rectangular signs give information. It's blue for motorways, green for main roads, white for minor roads. They can also be used to tell you about congestion, charging zones, bus lanes and other boring stuff. Why not try our quick and simple road sign flashcard test? But if you get the stop sign wrong, please consider the case for public transport. You'll have to know how long it takes your car to stop from different speeds and in different conditions: dry, wet, and even icy. And do remember that your stopping distance is made up of two parts. There's the thinking distance, that's how far your car travels while you think, yeah, I must put the brakes on. And then the stopping distance itself, how far it goes once the brakes have been applied. Here's a useful tip. Stopping distances in the wet are twice as long as they are in the dry, and in the ice, they're 10 times as long. So learn the dry stopping distances and then apply the multiplier to work the others out. To help you learn all this, we've invented a driving game, and it's unlike almost every other driving game ever invented, in that the objective is not to hit anything. So it's not as good. Sorry.